We're in an interesting time. One Piece is nearing its end, but we're getting much more context and subtle hints to slowly piece this mystery together. Honestly, I wasn't sure exactly where to start with this video since there's so many layers to this, so I figured I should start from the beginning in regards to the timeline of this information. I still might just have a video where I spitball my thoughts and go from there, but I felt like for people who may have forgotten some of the moments in the story where it essentially told us things from like this past chapter, but that's the funny thing about chapters like this. This is partially due to One Piece going on for so long that we typically forget certain instances where the story somewhat alludes to certain things if it just not flat out tells us so. I remember for the longest time, and this is unrelated, but when Luffy fought Doflamingo, after he lost his haki and then he was carried, versus Katakuri, Luffy lost his haki as well, and then he proceeded to run away, and the perception was, well, obviously he grew his haki. I guess he did, but he could do the same thing back then versus Doflamingo, but he used the resources around him, whereas versus Katakuri, he had to run away since he was alone. So I'm not saying the story has told us these exact things before, and as we know, hindsight is 2020, but there are heavy implications before this chapter being 968. So where do we start? In the recent chapter 968, the Neptunians, or seakings, stated that they were not only waiting for the birth of their sovereign, but also the meeting of another sovereign in another sea, meaning that their king will be meeting another king, and they were looking forward to it. So it seems that they have been waiting on this specific moment to happen for a while. One of these individuals is obviously Shirahoshi, who is the reincarnation of Poseidon, and the legend stated by Otohime is that every few centuries a mermaid who can communicate with the sea kings is born, and that mermaid was Shirahoshi, and this was in chapter 626. In chapter 967, we learn about the time Gold Roger learned about the same prophecy and Shirahoshi's expected birth as told by Madame Shyarly at age 3. Another cool callback is Roger in chapter 648 asking Rayleigh if he heard anything in reference to the Sea Kings, and in 967 the same thing is shown. Of course, this time we get a bit more information after that, and Odin even chimes in. That's the part that was cut off. Even when Rayleigh was talking to Luffy about the history of the world and the Void Century, saying that he knew of it, or specifically talking to Robin, and he said Roger didn't decipher the poneglyphs, like he could only use the voice of all things. He never mentioned Odin. So it's cool things in One Piece that Oda, leaves out conveniently, but it all connects so well. Back on topic though, let's start with Professor Clover and the city of Ohara. In Robin's flashback, we learn of the archaeologists and how important their research has been, as well as the 100-year void 800 years ago. The mere research of this information is worth your life, which includes attempting to decipher the poneglyphs. The excuse for this, as told by one of the Gorosei, or the Gorosei as a whole, was that reading the poneglyphs makes it dangerous for the world. It does this by making it possible for the revival of ancient weapons, and that the intent doesn't matter in the case of Professor Clover, because one might come along with evil intent after him and make use of these weapons. Thought it was a very valid argument. However, there are holes there, and Professor Clover's rebuttal was valid as well, because he's saying that history belongs to humanity. However, we all know heavy is the head that wears the crown, and even though we know that this is a cover to the true nature of the world government, that threat of ancient weapons does exist. But I'll mention how they would counter that threat later in this video. But in argument against the world government, them serving the celestial dragons and supporting slavery, genocide, etc., that doesn't help their case. So as Professor Clover also states, the mere existence of these stones makes one weary, as they are scattered all across the world on unbreakable stone in ancient languages. Obviously, there's an enemy. That's the only reason all these precautions were taken. Professor Clover also reveals that through his studies is the discovery of an ancient kingdom, and that the establishment of the world government is right after the 100-year void, which implies that the void is convenient to the world government and their existence, and they are the enemy that this ancient kingdom feared. So thus far, we have an ancient kingdom, possible and more than likely hostile takeover, ancient stones passed down to tell the world of what truly transpired. So where do we go from here? Well, when Robin and crew went to Sky Island, it told her of the location of the weapon that bears the name of the gods, or God, Poseidon, and its location. So now let's jump forward to Fishman Island. Robin reads a poneglyph with a strange message this time. It's somewhat of an apology. We know we got a call back in the recent chapter as well. Then we hear the name Joyboy. This obviously raises the question, who is Joyboy, or what is a Joyboy? Thankfully, Neptune tells us, I guess, in chapter 649, in which he says Joyboy was a person who lived on the surface during the 100-year void, which was at least 800 years ago, as we know, and the apology was for breaking the promise with Fishman Island. What is the promise though? Well, Neptune also mentions that they will continue to uphold their side of the promise by protecting Noah until the day of promise. You following so far? So I get it, this is a royal legend. That's what Neptune is banking on. It's just a legend. Shirahoshi's existence is a royal legend in itself, so based on this previous knowledge, this is almost a certified fact. Someone is destined to fulfill the promise Joyboy made to Fishman Island. But who is this someone? And again, who and what is a Joyboy? I'm not done with Joyboy yet, but let's jump to Noah, the Ark of Prophecy. And I'm not sure how many of you are religious. I'm not going to go too deep with that, but in the Bible, Noah's Ark is a boat, a huge boat, which saved people and animals from a great flood, or cleansing. This depiction of Noah's Ark seems to be going the same route, because Noah, the ship of prophecy, after the entire debacle with Vanderdecken and sending Noah to destroy Fishman Island because of its following Shirahoshi, Luffy then determines that destroying Noah is the only way to save Fishman Island. And also, the seakings saving Fishman Island, that is one of the most beautiful but also downright chilling panels in One Piece. And the seakings, they actually stop Noah before Luffy absolutely destroys it at the request of Shirahoshi, and this was somewhat unconscious because she didn't actually make a request to them. She just wanted to save Luffy really bad because he was already injured and he was going all out to destroy the ship, and she really wanted to save her country. And due to this, they came to her aid. They said that their power is her power. She is Poseidon. This is what she can do. In the midst of this, Neptune is seen apologizing to Joyboy for breaking the promise to save his people by allowing Luffy to destroy the Noah. So there's a few things to get to. One, Shirahoshi unlocked her power at this moment. So 2 years after the Straw Hats being away and now coming to Fishman Island, the culmination of Vanderdecken and Hody Jones, she unlocks the power and she meets Luffy. We can't forget what the Sea King said though. They await the day that not only their sovereign, Poseidon, would be born, but also when she would meet another sovereign. Adding further context, because hindsight is amazing, the Sea King stated that the ship needs to be fixed by a particular clan, but due to it being a different time, it may not be done. With what we know now, and the Kazuki being the clan that was responsible for creating impenetrable stones, and also we cannot forget about Momo's ability to communicate with Zunisha. And while I may be jumping to a conclusion here, I guess there could be another unrevealed clan that can fortify things of this nature. And in regards to connections with ancient weapons, we know Pluton was a warship, and from the blueprints being passed down to shipwrights, the purpose was to create a warship as opposition if the true Pluton was to be revived. So if a warship is in connection with Water 7, could Frankie be the shipwright to rebuild Pluton with Shirahoshi's help upon return to Fishman Island? Now you're asking, Brago, how do you know they're going back to Fishman Island? Well, you know they're going back because Luffy or a man in a straw hat will destroy Fishman Island. More than likely, Luffy's that man. So then the citizens will be evacuated on the Noah, completing Joyboy's promise to Fishman Island. So if Luffy's the one to complete this task, does that make him Joyboy? This has been said previously about Joyboy after the recent revelations, but in regards to the history of the ancient kingdom, this leads me to believe that Joyboy is actually an alias. From the meticulous nature in which the ancient kingdom went about things, not only by concealing what was written on the poneglyphs and making sure they cannot be destroyed by making these stones impenetrable, or rather indestructible, having the final island Raftel be where you hold all this information and you have to find 4 specific poneglyphs, why would the promised individual not have a secret alias, and one that accompanies their most defining trait, smiling? And again, I'm assuming here the ancient kingdom is actually the D clan. Like everyone from the ancient kingdom is a D, a devil, the true rival or opposition of the gods, the celestial dragons, because that's what they call themselves. The thing is with parallels, Luffy's aura, and this has been said by multiple people, but specifically Gonfall in Fishman Island, or in Skypiea, I mean, he said, you know, Luffy's aura reminds him of Gold Roger. In Fishman Island, Luffy could understand the Sea Kings like Roger could. It was a specific callback and parallel to what Roger did when he was there with Rayleigh. He has met a member of the Kazuki, and while Momo isn't an official crewmate, it is a parallel to Roger and Oden. But if this is the case, why isn't Roger Joyboy? He had everything Luffy had and more if you count Oden, because Oden was older, more developed. There was one thing though, Poseidon. Who could Roger use to direct the Sea Kings back then? They were too early, like Rayleigh stated. He also said that Roger and the Roger pirates came to a different conclusion because they were too early. But he also said if he told them anything at that point, this was in Sabaody Archipelago, there was nothing the Straw Hat crew currently could do about it. To me, the beginning of the end revolves around Fishman Island, and that Luffy has to accomplish these things as this era's Joyboy. When the reverie was going on, we saw this huge straw hat that was in front of Ima-sama. And the chapters before that, the Gorosei mentioned a great cleansing, Vivi's picture, Luffy's picture, Blackbeard's picture, and then we see a big straw hat. Again, the straw hat itself is a symbol. It's a representation of something. Why it's showing there, that's to be determined. But I think it's clear whomever owns the straw hat more than likely inherits the will of Joyboy, but then inherited will is also different than being a reincarnate. So if Luffy is Joyboy, is he a reincarnate of Joyboy? If Luffy fails, does someone else inherit the requisite strength and luck needed to complete the mission left by the ancient kingdom? Well, a video for another day. However, what about this scenario? Could the other sovereign be Vivi? Vivi has recently met Shirahoshi. She's of royalty as well. There seems to be a great cleansing that will be taking place, and she's involved in some way as indicated by Imu. Alabasta has connections to the ancient weapons. Could Luffy just be the weapon? It's so many possibilities, but time will tell. But before we end, something cool about Madame Shyarly that I found. Well, two things. One was her saying she cannot tell exactly when things can happen. Then she tells Roger when Shirahoshi will be born. She says she will be born in 10. I'm assuming years because it can't be 10 months. Secondly, in an SBS, she was spotted in Fishman Island back then when it was going on, and Oda said that she correctly predicted the Great Pirate Era. So I thought it was cool as she in a way was connected to the topic, as she predicted, or she's predicting that Luffy's going to be the one, or a man in a straw hat will be the one to destroy Fishman Island. But that's it for me, guys. I just wanted to bring things together as far as like how I was thinking about everything. You guys can let me know how you feel about it. Luffy being Joyboy, Joyboy's connection to the ancient kingdom, Joyboy's connection to Roger, the importance of this era's Joyboy. Could Luffy not be Joyboy? I won't get into reincarnation and Will of D here because I feel like that should be a separate thing in itself, and this would not meaninglessly, but I don't want to extend this video any longer. So give me your thoughts on everything I said. Joyboy, Roger, Luffy, how they're all connected. What do you think? Give me your thoughts. Like the video if you did, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Again, like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at BragoDAce, follow me on Instagram at BragoD.ace, and I shall catch you guys in the next one. Peace.